Take a look at some maps in Africa that showed large lakes where there's now small puddles. We're going to see possibly where it is going to shift to again, where fortunes will be made and fortunes will be lost. And as in yesterday's video, talking about the Nigerian Morocco pipeline, that is going to be across the western bulge of Africa. Going to connect that through the center with a series of pipes and then spider web it with connectors in between, sending a quarter of Africa gas up to Europe, going through the Algerian pipeline system to Spain and then to Italy. The only problem is the coups have gone across the Sahel and kind of make a blockade for that. But what's not talked about is the agriculture possibility. Russian fertilizer shipments to Africa more than 31.3%. Do I see a 33 there? I do. Never ending demand increasing as should be if there's going to be more crops grown. Most important map you're going to look at connected together here. Who controls the water controls the future. Who controls the water controls the agriculture. And as we look very high to high productivity and freshness center, Niger and Chad controlling that. Sudan in on the heavies as well. That's the Nubian sandstone aquifer over there around Egypt, Sousse aquifer, Morocco, Algeria. But in the center is where, well, I think the drainage basin for Lake Chad and the old mega lake, it's going to have a lot of reservoir and recharge of that entire aquifer system fresh in the center there. This in itself is a grand prize. Whoever controls the water controls a double rotation crop with a new green ag tech that we have. And if they can get outside the Monsanto seed net that many are caught in, this is a game changer because there's more rainfall coming from the West African monsoon, so they can get several inches more of rain. That's why everything's refilling in these ancient mega lake basins. That's why all these towns are getting flooded continuously. People have to move. The water's not draining, it's staying. We're seeing a shift of a multi-thousand-year cycle occurring in Africa. So if it's occurring there, where else it is occurring? Oh yeah, all the record rain across Saudi Arabia, record rains up into Jordan. That whole area is becoming continuously wetter as well. But we had milk and honey gardens and forests in the Babylonian period. Sumerian kingdom talks about it. It's desert now. It seems that the flip is on and we're coming back into something cooler, wetter. That's going to be in these regions, but that takes the control away from empire that was using food as a weapon to control Africa for the resources. Now they're going to have the energy. They're building their refineries. They don't need imported products. Remember before, they would export oil at a pittance and then they'd have to buy back the refined gasoline products, kerosene, etc. from the Western bigs on the stock market. That's ended ED. And now they're coming in with water and the ag themselves, which was another big one. We're not going to sell you the food. You people are going to starve. Now they're going to grow rice and millet and corn and everything else that we would normally sell to them. So each little thing, death by 1,000 cuts. But for them, it's birth by 1,000 cuts. This is the decade, century of Africa as it shakes off the reins of the colonialist powers, gets back on its feet. There's going to be corruption. They're going to infight. But, as long as they're working together in the beginning to get, the bigger enemy out of the gates, for a better term. But a quick stop in history. The Niger River goes up through Mali, Niger and Nigeria. So keep your eye on that water body there. And you see something very similar. This map here from 1607, it'll show that the same water bodies, but a gigantic lake is actually a dried up estuary currently. But as you can see, it goes over to Lake Chad as well. So that was an entire water body system. And if water's increasing and they are dredging along some of these rivers to allow deeper draft on the vessels going up there, that means larger vessels, not just canoes. And then I thought maybe that's a misprint. Guys didn't know what they were doing back then. And I looked 1707, a full century later. And what do we see? The exact same large body of water, but it has dried out a little bit even since that previous photo. They don't show that large island in the middle of the in the lake there. It seems that it dried at least on that western edge a little bit out. But that is where this river had connected to. Now, the possibilities of this, As we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing we all learned, it's that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan. It's a gamble. For over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves and the people they love by diversifying their wealth in gold and silver. No one knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing's for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital, it's physical, it's lasting, it's yours. So when you're sitting around the table this holiday season, surrounded by family, remember the best gift you can give isn't under the tree, it's peace of mind. So before the year ends, take one smart step toward a safer future. Visit 2030gold.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. That's 2030gold.com. And this holiday season, if you open a qualified account with noblegoldinvestments.com, they're going to send you 10 of these 1-ounce silver rounds. Holiday season's greetings. And on the back, we have the Happy Snowman, which melts at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Silver, 1,763 degrees. It's metals. Your stockings are waiting for these. Head to 2030gold.com. Click on that link in the description box below. Pretty much endless of getting those 4 or 5 countries connected by water and road and rail and pipeline for natural gas and oil. And you can see where this goes. It's the development model of just copy paste of every other great nation that or continent that has risen out. We've all done the same. Look at America in the 1930s. We had the same, put out some railroads, put the highway system in, started pumping the oil and gas, got the factories in there, got the agriculture, and boom, full on superpower. Russia, the same. It's all about the agriculture. If you can feed the people, you're not at the behest of everybody else to starve you out and use food as a weapon, Mr. Kissinger. Starve people, make them do what you want. Well, if you can remove that at least danger and also cut off the energy and make them fight because of lack of energy, well, if you can remove those 2 major bottlenecks, then you suddenly have something that could be prosperous. Speaking of which, the largest hydroelectric dam in Africa, this is in Ethiopia, the new Renaissance Dam, or the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Side view with the overflow spillway there. And if you look back, this used to be dry, but they flooded the mountains, and it filled up about 7 years earlier than they anticipated. They were giving timelines of about a 9-year fill period, and it filled up in 2 years. That's just that same monsoonal pattern that is sending record floods to Mecca and Saudi Arabia and Yemen and Oman year after year after year. Well, this is just across the Red Sea, and it is filling also. Now, the second largest hydroelectric dam in Africa is in Ethiopia also. 2,200 megawatts, Koisha Dam. Image for you, that again is going to backfill there and just flood those mountains. Obviously, villagers removed from that for this project. And I was saying, all right, I got some better images for you. That is very deep, well constructed. The only thing is that Rift Valley there where the volcano that had erupted in the last, once in 10,000 year eruption just went off there. So a little bit instability in the crust, but they're going to go with it anyway. So that's another thing, that Rift Valley is actually rifting open further. So that once in a 10,000 year eruption shows that electromagnetically something's changing on our planet. The southern Atlantic anomaly with the weakening magnetic field down there is at least doubled in size in less than 10 years. So if it doubles again, we're going to be at least half of the southern hemisphere and under the next 10 years. And then what happens at that point, nobody knows. But it seems that it's reflecting through electric currents coming through our crust here. And there's large volcanoes and many that haven't erupted in thousands, plural of years, that just seem to be going off on a daily now. That's in the same area, once in a 10,000 year eruption, Rift Valley. So there's massive and vast changes going on, but they're up in the highlands where these dam projects. But the electrical corridor is next, and this is where the blue is. So anything that's blue is where the main trunk lines for the high voltage direct current cables are going to come off of. They're used in HVDC, not the system in America for that. And looks like Uganda and Kenya are going to be the winners. Somalia out of there for now, but they're going to come back in, I'm sure. Highway system here is going to follow something similar. So the reason the South Sudan's fighting is that they're fighting over electrical transmission lines going to Uganda. Much like fighting over oil pipelines, everybody's fighting for the resources. This time it's electricity, because if you have electricity, you can have factories and you can process crops and you can purify water and all that good stuff we have here. Next, the railways. So that full western quadrant where all the spider webbing oil pipelines are going in. And that's going to connect over to the whole Eastern electrified corridor. And then you start to see that is going to, well, be its own route across Africa. And remember, it's so much larger than you see on the maps. You could put a full American 48 states, lower 48 in there and just have like another 50% of room to spare. Now, looking at these maps, Ethiopia right here, Lake Tana. And I said, I'd seen this in some ancient maps I looked at. So I want to bring it back into the 1600 maps again, just for the east coast of Africa. 12 degrees north latitude, and you can see Tana there. And if you look over a little bit to the left, you'll see the demarcation of the degrees. And remember, 1 degree latitude is 60 miles. So we're going to do 11.5 degrees north latitude is where at the very arrow tip of that is. And then at the northern edge of it, you're at like 1230. I'm going to be generous and say a full degree. I know it's not a full degree, but we'll say 60 miles wide, long. And here it is. And notice the box that I put in here. 14 degrees all the way down to 12 degrees north latitude, which means this thing's measuring in at least 120 miles long. I'll be generous and say 100. The other one, 50 to 60. So this thing is much larger by at least 40 to 50 miles, plus the islands are in there, than it was before. That's vast changes, and this map brings us from the year 1700. So you've had at least a 50% dry out, and the depth of the lake also has a lot to do with that. So I put it here on Google Maps for you, and it's actually 46, almost 47 miles compared to the 110 or 100 miles. So, it's substantially different in size. So you can find that on the map again. Many a place show this, and that is the periphery at the mega lake basin there. So that red line, if it was to be full like it was in the Great Lake period of the, say, 6,000 years prior, that is as full as that got 6,000 years ago when it was at a maximum capacity. It's dried down since, and then it's dried down since again 1700s. So I found it again on another map. This one from 1706. Same place, same size. So for sure some drying has occurred in the last 300 years. That's a massive amount. So they've been telling us it's taken thousands and thousands and thousands of years to get down to this thing. Well, I'm showing you there's been massive changes in just 300 here. So, everything they're telling us about water, this, that, and the other. And bringing you to the soil map of Eastern Africa. If you look at Kenya, you will see a large body of water there. And also if you look offshore, a couple islands. So now we're going directly west of the islands there, and we have just like a gap. There's some sort of like elongated lake, and then it turns into some sort of river going south. But that's the contours we're looking at now in the present day. But if we swing back to 1640, you'll see those same islands there off the right near where that guy is with his orange turban. And you go, and that lake is incredibly much larger. And it encompasses all of this area. It is not that broken finger lake. That broken finger lake is on the west of that entire lake. So again, the gargantuan amounts of, let's say, shrinkage that we're seeing from just the last 300 years validated on the maps. Last map here for you. What you're looking at here, that largest one is what we looked at, Lake Tana, that had shrunken to around 12 degrees north latitude. Now, if you go over toward the Red Sea where that bottleneck is, and you get the port of Yemen on the other side of the Red Sea there, where it really bottlenecks in, if you go a little bit, you're going to see those dots of water, these dots of lakes that exist or remain from, you got one there, second one. But you could see there could be a third. Just look at the indentations in the darkness there where the deposits are. So you got 1, 2, possibly a third, and going down in Djibouti area. But we look back on the older maps, and it shows you 5 of those. 5 compared to what we see today, which again, all of these have dried out. These are substantial. I ended up going on to Google Earth and looking at some of the depression areas. Those are about 300-foot deep lakes. So 5 of those had dried out along there. So there were substantial amounts of water before. Now, here's the thing. Substantial amounts of water are returning right now. They're telling you it's for this or that reason. But if you're talking about a continental shift, it's not just that continent shifts alone on its weather flow and rainfall pattern. The entire northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere do as well. Have you heard about any massive floods across, like, say, northern Australia? Oh, yeah. Every year now, it's a once in a 500-year flood. Are we seeing floods in Western America, up that whole North American monsoon flow from Baja California into the Four Corners area and deserts? Oh, yeah. Every year there's floods, record floods. It's occurring everywhere across the planet, which signals a massive shift back to the way it was before. Think about it as a sine wave. So we come up to maximum dryness. Now we're coming back into maximum wet. Although that maximum lake fill was 6,000 years ago in the mid-Holocene, like there's an actual date for that. About 6,000 to 6,500 years ago, those mega lakes in Africa were, a quarter of the United States in size in terms of how big they were substantially larger than all of our Great Lakes combined. So you're looking at imagine that kind of pattern to make it flow. Now, if you knew this cycle was here again, what would you do? Global governance structure. Something's collapsing. For me, I would absolutely take all the wealth I could out of the planet and put it somewhere else. That's called the Great Taking. They're going to milk and remove the wealth and transfer to a different place for safety. Safety, yeah. They're just going to strip everything that would have collapsed anyway. Why should it be in your hands? It's going to collapse. You didn't know how to handle it. Peons. We're the rulers. We know how to handle everything. So that's kind of what you're looking at in the historical context here. So all these changes happening. Everything's focusing in on Africa. United States is not invited to this party. We're going to have to force our way in, put our foot in the door and get in there somehow. How do you think that will be done? Because right now diplomacy is not really doing it. That's where China and Russia are coming in. They have provided crates of cash instead of crates of ordnance. So we'll see where it goes from here, but keep your eyes on this area here, not just for the politics and the, that whole flashpoint, for a better term. This is a validator of global shift on rainfall patterns. You can see it here first and right in the Middle East, especially across right around Mecca. Incredible floods. I mean, incredible. Jeddah area, that literally biblical is an understatement, but that would make sense if you're flipping back on a 6,000 year cycle. We've only measured what we know now for a couple hundred years. So it's way outside of our context of what could be. So keep that in mind. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Please remember to support our sponsors. Incredible products. I use them myself. Alfa Vedic Dental Solutions. That tooth scrub is going to leave your teeth squeaky clean. Make sure you click on alphavedic.com/civilization. Check out the product line they have for you there. And also civilizationcycle.com show notes, 10 bullet points of our 2-hour live program, talking about some of these same issues and how we're weaving time, history, and economy together here. That's off our live show Thursday nights, 10 p.m. to midnight. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Share with your friends and family. Smash that like button to help the algorithm. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.